Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to give three highlights from the debate. A lot of people are asking when's it out, and it's going to take time to edit and whatnot, but I wanted to share three things, which is the debate obviously was about, can atheism justify human rights? Now, when I was thinking about this, I wanted to do a few things. So there's a lot that was covered in the debate, but there's three particular things which I was looking for, which alhamdulillah were granted on the day. The first is that I was using Alex's argument to basically build the idea that if we take your argument seriously, that to maximize pleasure, then we have ethics and morality and these things, even though they are not real and true, like physical objects or whatnot, then we would also have to believe in God, because the belief in God is something which can maximize pleasure, because it reduces stress, gives you longer life, increases reproduction, you're less depressed and whatnot. Anyway, so he had to admit that if that is the case, then if that is the premise, that religion and belief in God is adaptive, then he had no way of escaping that. And I used Weinstein, the same person, the evolutionary biologist that he referred to, for a different purpose, and I used him for the purpose of building that case, because although he's an atheist, he also admits that belief in God is adaptive. So I think he wasn't expecting that, but yeah, that was fun. The second thing is about, what was the second thing? So there was the belief in God, that was the first trap. The second trap, yes, was Alex Rosenberg. Alex Rosenberg is a philosopher of biology who has written a book called An Atheist's Guide to Reality. And he basically sets up this dilemma, this new Plato's dilemma. Is core morality true, therefore it was selected? Or is it the case that it was selected, therefore it's true? So that's a trap. And when I put that in my initial opening, then Alex basically fell for it. And he said, core morality is selected, therefore it's true. Now, I explained in the debate, obviously, why that was wrong. And I'm going to be, inshallah, making a longer video in which I explain why that both those options are actually bad options. Because obviously, when Alex Rosenberg makes this argument, he has to go through a lot of, different, you have to, it's not the sort of point you can just cover very quickly. You can cover the main points like in a passing comment, but just to explain why that dilemma is such a dilemma. And I'm happy that he chose one of those options because both of those options are actually bad options. The third thing, so the second thing was about the Darwinian Plato's dilemma. What's the third? So the first was God, second was dilemma, third was, yes. So I wanted to highlight that even though your entire system is, you're trying to objectify it in some way or another, it is fundamentally subjective, right? It's just like, especially near the end of the discussion, I gave the example of chocolate and vanilla ice cream. It's just as arbitrary as that. And, that's something which even he, in his opening, spoke about, that, this sounds a little bit wishy-washy and, it sounds a bit this and that. So that was, that's where I do respect him, because he has been honest. Although one of the things I did highlight in the beginning of in my opening and in the end as well is that his argument is very different to Sam Harris, right? So Sam Harris, in The Moral Landscape, he comes up with the argument of to try and objectify ethics and morals based upon science, and Alex disagrees with that, which is quite brave of him, which I did actually highlight in the debate as well. So that's the main thing that the new atheists are clutching onto, Sam Harris's view. And what Alex does is he comes up with his own view and he challenges Sam Harris's view, which is good. But the problem is, if Sam Harris is right, then ethics, morals, human rights are binding. You can enforce them. They're objective. But if Alex is right, they're not binding. They're not enforceable. They're impotent. So, that particular point is crucial. It's a bit, you can miss it, as in, it's quite subtle, because the way Alex builds up his case, you wouldn't notice it. So you have to actually look out for that. There were times where we were getting off into semantics and getting a bit abstract, which I think some people found hard to follow. That's one of the feedbacks I got in the middle of the discussion, because the discussion was quite long. The beginning of the discussion was more clear. The end was clear as well, but the middle part was muddly. And I think that actually happens when you start, when you have different meanings that you're attaching onto words. So Alex, for example, he said, "Oh, I'm not a moral nihilist," and I said, but his definition, what he meant was that he thinks moral propositions are meaningful. And I was like, no. Nihilism here is in reference to the truth value, which obviously no atheist can say that. What was the other thing that consistency, right? So the thing is, you can build up nonsense in a consistent way. So you can believe in nonsense consistently. That word was being thrown about a lot, like it was something, badge of honor, like we're just being consistent. But you could be consistent in something which is true and valuable and meaningful. But if you're just consistent in something which is fundamentally subjective, then what's the point? That's one of the things which came across as well. So those are the three things I wanted to share. Belief in God, you would have to grant that to maximize pleasure. Alex Rosenberg's dilemma, which I'm going to be covering in a lot more detail, because I think that particular trap was... And why I love it is because Alex Rosenberg himself is an atheist. So he sets up this trap for those who think that moral nihilism is something which you can escape. And he is quite, Alex Rosenberg is quite sharp. So, that particular argument it's easy to fall for that sort of trap. And the third, obviously, is about it's all subjective anyway, right? The whole thing. Chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, whatever, it's just completely subjective. So if everybody subjectively agrees to something, which, by the way, they don't necessarily do that. So when you have, even this assumption that everybody has the same subjective ideas, that's not actually true. So, those are the ideas I wanted to share. Video will be out in the coming days. I'm traveling back to Pakistan on Tuesday, and I'm going to be back there talking to, just the same university stuff that I was doing before. However, being back in the UK and talking directly to non-Muslims and students at university, after the debate we spoke to the students, and majority of the audience was atheists. They were sort of Alex's crowd. But it's really nice to interact directly with non-Muslims rather than, like in Pakistan, it's nice, obviously, because you're giving debates and not debates, you're training and you're giving talks and you're doing these types of things. But directly speaking to students and having discussions with them after the debate, which wasn't filmed, but to be honest, that's like the real dawah. The debate is more like, like what's going on here, like who knows what they're talking about and this type of thing. But, those one-to-one discussions, that's really about reaching out to hearts and minds and, sort of getting people to at least doubt what they hold on to and question the supposed self-evident truth of atheism. That it just supposedly seems so obvious, and then you start to see actually it's not. It's pretty ill-defined, and there's a lot of counterfactuals to atheism. So it's definitely not self-evident. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this little sneak preview, and let me know your thoughts when the debate does come out. And hopefully through the Oxford Forum, which I'd like to thank again, which I'm going to be in contact with in the future, we can set up more discussions. Assalamu alaikum.